Welcome, beloved community. Welcome, faith community. The people called together in this community to be, and as your mission statement states, live out an expansive and inclusive Christian faith, act for peace, and nurture compassionate community. This mission statement, in a nutshell, identifies who you are and your gifts that you offer to the community. It's a powerful statement that holds within it both gift and challenge. I look forward to unraveling some of those gifts and challenges with you over the next few months, exploring through our worship time, our music, our liturgies, our scriptures, what this in fact looks like for you in this time and place. Sharing our stories, our faith journeys, in the hope to grow in love one for another in the world where we find ourselves. We are in the midst of Epiphany season, the season of light that breaks through darkness, literally and figuratively. Have you noticed that subtle change and shift in the time of dusk and night sky? I noticed it particularly this morning when I was up rather early, and it was quite light already. In this season of light, the readings from the Hebrew Scriptures, and particularly the Hebrew Scriptures today, take us to Jeremiah's call, his personal call journey, a prophet who had been identified as the everyman's prophet. Because, well, his fear, his anxiety, his resistance are all understandable responses to the call to represent God in the world he is living in, and yet somehow did not disqualify him from serving God's intentions for him. Jeremiah's call story invites all of us to reflect on our faith stories and calls. And it provides me with an opportunity to share a little bit about my faith journey, so you too know a little bit more about me as we share our times together. First, most important for me is Scripture. Its stories, its message. Its layers of meaning tugging at my heartstring and shaping me most of my life. First, as a child growing up in a Lutheran minister's family. And then, as a young adult, I was drawn and I sought out intentionally books by more contemporary prophets of the day, like, well, in my time it was Bonhoeffer and C.S. Lewis, and I still remember that book I read by J.B. Phillips, I think it was, yes, J.B. Phillips, Your God is Too Small, challenging me way back in the 60s into another vision of who God can be for our lives. What it meant to live out both our Hebrews and Christian faith, I was firmly rooted through that time, was both gift and challenge, though, for me. And this passion gradually led to teaching a short time in the Lutheran missions at the high school in Papua New Guinea. When I returned, I taught in Winnipeg, then went to seminary for a year. And then, before I knew it, family life took over. Yes, and for a number of years, music worship with the Lutheran Church, and eventually the United Church in Dawson Creek, where it's 37 below right now. I worked with the school system as a music specialist with French immersion and then the high school. Loving my time with the children and young adults that were part of the music programs that we offered. Call for me was right there among the kids and with young adults who loved music and loved learning to sing, play ensembles, you name it, what we did. And all gifts and challenges of making music together. Another significant part for me is in the Epiphany message itself. Those simple words, "You are my beloved. You are a child of God." Central, these words, to my work and play. With those who knew me well, in book studies or holy conversations, I struggled with the faith questions, like most of us do probably. Challenged theological assumptions, wondered about the how and the where and the what of living God's belovedness in the real world today. I still wonder. I wonder, what do the teachings of Jesus, his life and message, the scripture, mean for us as people of faith? These questions insist on engagement, not just of mind, but also of heart. I trust it will always be so for God's people, even as the Spirit reveals unfolding wisdom and deeper insight in each decade, each generation. I've always felt a passionate, a persistent invitation to ask those questions, to offer the gifts I've honed and developed over the years from within the church, rather than outside the church. Fully aware of the church's shortcomings, first as that minister's kid and, well, for 20 years as a minister's wife, then as and during so much of this time as a congregant or lay person and church leader, I wanted to address with others the realities of our messy humanity and its impact on what and who the church is today. I surprisingly at times was drawn back into theological studies and finally ministry as a second career during the second half of my life. The Spirit within and all around me throughout my life urged, no, insisted on a new and different response. Despite my hesitations and, the walls I put up and that I held up for some time as I let life just take over, so to speak. But slowly, family life shifted. I had more time to explore possibilities and new expressions of the Spirit at work within us. Conversations with other people of faith, quiet meditation times, the Spirit in and through scriptures that were guiding, like a guiding star, that, like the Magi story you heard not so long ago, had taken me into new country, along new journeys of faith, into ministry with the United Church. And it's here with the United Church's open, inclusive spirit, with its willingness to ask those questions and its call to justice work and community engagement, here I was most at home. Well, questions I still wonder and wonderings, and they all remain, and they insist on responses as I continue to move through life. Questions like, what would it mean for us to, as part of the Christian church, to seriously take Jesus and his message and let it lead us into a new vision of God for today's world? What would it mean for Christians to understand, experience, and embody God as loving, healing, reconciling Spirit in whom all creatures live and move and have their being? It's a question that Brian McLaren asks also in a book I'm reading right now about spiritual migration. How the scriptural stories and message offers wisdom and truth and insight is often what I ask myself and is what I am about in ministry. And that brings us pretty much up to date. 10 years of ministry, and then after official retirement, Paul and I moved to Vernon. For me, it was like coming home to the Okanagan, where so much of my family has lived for many years. I always sensed that in some way I would continue to be in ministry service somehow. I wanted, though, to have more time to get back to the instruments I always played, and I had to set aside full-time ministry in order to do that. Occasional supply ministry, regular music accompany at Trinity United, and suddenly I felt more balanced again. I had opportunities to walk in nature, to ski at Sovereign Hill, wonderful place to ski, and life settled in. Well, until you know what happened. Allison Rennie phoned me and brought to my attention, and I must admit more than once, to the ministry need. I had to ask myself, what would I need to let go of? What was most important right now in my life? Once more, call and response questions. And as I was reading quietly in meditation not that long ago, a Parker Palmer, and some of you might be familiar with him, a Quaker author and elder, clarified the questions that I was trying to sort out. Not unlike the very question the disciples probably had to ask themselves too, when they chose to let go of their nets and follow Jesus. Parker Palmer said, "I found a question that's brought me a new sense of meaning. I no longer ask, what do I want to let go of, and what do I want to hang on to? Instead, I ask, and I invite you to ask too, what do I want to let go of, and what do I want to give myself to?" The desire to give myself to comes for me from a sense of the Creator's abundance and generosity that has been part of my life. I look forward to those many conversations with you as we share some of this and what it looks like for you. And as we ask ourselves, even as a community of faith, what is it we want to let go of? What is it do we want to give ourselves to? My story shared is a story of growth and development, like so many of ours. And I think of images from Jesus' teaching in the parables and etc. Jesus used metaphors of the seed, of maturing ears, of corn, of weeds and wheat growing together, and yeast rising. His parables of the reign of God are about finding, about discovering, being surprised, changing roles, status. None of these notions are static. They're always about something new and good coming into being. This is where hope lies for me. Hope for the church as a Christian people. And as a church participates in this growing and maturing and shifting and changing, finding and discovering, we are all renewed. Our faith communities are strengthened, and we can move forward with courage and creativity. The Spirit within us, together, is one of courage and power and of love, to be the love in the world community we are part of, and as expressed in 1 Corinthians 13. I think this is why I keep responding yes to those questions of call. I look forward to hearing where and how you find hope along your journey. And 1 Corinthians today highlighted all three: faith, hope, and love, beautifully interwoven. Faith more and more for me. Well, it's not that problematic set of beliefs, and yet, well, I guess it is too. Faith is a just and generous way of life, rooted in meditation, walks in nature, and conversations with those I meet. It's expressed in compassion, in dedication to the beloved community for all. Your mission statement says the same thing. Your identity is an expansive and inclusive Christian faith, acting for peace, nurturing a compassionate community, affirms this. And together we will grow and learn and eat and pray and live a more loving way of being in the world. Our creative response and our openness to the fresh wind of the Spirit will shape and direct faith's expression for us. I want to be part of that response, and your presence here suggests you do too. And together we can continue to grow and learn from the life of Jesus, from the wisdom of the saints who have gone before us, from one another as beloved children of God. I look forward to this continued journey, of learning, of growing together, and maturing toward a deepening, enduring vision of love's expression. And of all the many radical things said and done by Jesus, the very heart of Jesus' life, his purpose, his prime directive was love. Love is the greatest commandment. Love for God, for self, for neighbor, for stranger, for alien, for the outsider, for the outcast, and even for enemy. I anticipate and I look forward to many enlightening conversations with you together over the next few months about what this looks like for you and for us here at Winfield United Church. Amen.